morning I wake up to a new headline lying about me. I have comedians dressing up in whiteface. I have people saying I'm not fit to be CEO. And I have Candace Owens claiming I murdered my husband. And the list goes on and on and on.
What are you going to ask her? At the bottom here, you can see I said, I'm asking everything. First question, why did you murder your husband? Cry emoji. And I have made a lot of claims about you lying, and I stand by the claims that I have made on this show.
The internet is exploding right now after Candace Owens allegedly connected Erika Kirk to growing conversations surrounding the Epstein document scandal. And social media thinks this situation could get very ugly very fast. At first, most people assumed this was just another internet controversy that would disappear after a few viral clips and angry reactions online. But then Candace started publicly questioning certain names, connections, online behavior, and inconsistencies surrounding people allegedly tied to elite social circles connected to the broader Jeffrey Epstein scandal. And once Erika Kirk's name started getting mentioned inside those discussions, everything escalated immediately. Because social media users did what they always do now. They started digging. Old photos started resurfacing. Past interviews got clipped. Timeline discussions exploded. People started analyzing who knew who attended what events, who followed whom online, and whether certain public figures were much closer to controversial social circles than audiences realized publicly before. And honestly, that is where things started getting dangerous reputationally. Because once somebody's name becomes emotionally attached to anything involving Epstein discourse online, facts almost stop mattering at first. The internet immediately enters conspiracy mode. Every connection becomes suspicious. Every old interaction gets re-examined. Every coincidence starts feeling intentional whether evidence exists or not. Now people are asking one brutal question everywhere online. Did Candace Owens just expose something legitimate involving Erika Kirk? Or did social media turn another incomplete internet theory into a full-blown public scandal before confirmed facts even surfaced? And the scariest part? This situation is growing because audiences already deeply distrust elite networks, celebrity circles, and hidden relationships behind powerful public figures. So once Candace publicly opened the door to those conversations, the internet ran with it instantly. Now Erika Kirk is suddenly facing massive online scrutiny, people are revisiting her past publicly, and social media users believe this controversy could spiral into something much bigger than anybody expected originally. The second Candace Owens publicly started discussing names connected to broader Epstein-related conversations, social media immediately went into investigation mode. And honestly, that reaction happened fast. Because audiences online already carry deep suspicion toward powerful networks, elite circles, celebrity friendships, and wealthy social connections generally. So once Candace even indirectly referenced certain people publicly, the internet instantly began searching for patterns everywhere. That is exactly how Erika Kirk suddenly became part of the conversation. At first, many people had no idea why her name was even being mentioned. But then clips, screenshots, old social posts, event photos, and archived online interactions allegedly started resurfacing publicly. Users on social media platforms began creating giant threads trying to connect timelines, friendships, and social overlap between various people being discussed online. And once that process starts, things spiral quickly. Because internet culture now treats public scandals almost like giant puzzle-solving competitions emotionally. Thousands of strangers begin analyzing every old interview, every photograph, every social interaction, and every online connection looking for hidden meaning or suspicious overlap. That environment becomes incredibly dangerous reputationally, especially in conversations involving Jeffrey Epstein. Because Epstein's name already carries enormous emotional weight publicly. Once somebody becomes even loosely connected to broader Epstein discourse online, audiences immediately become suspicious first and cautious later. People stop separating confirmed facts from internet speculation emotionally because the topic itself already triggers distrust automatically. That is why Erika's name spreading online became such a major issue so quickly. Critics started asking whether certain relationships, appearances, or connections had deeper meaning. Others began accusing the internet of creating guilt by association narratives without real evidence publicly. And both sides became more aggressive the longer the discussion spread. Meanwhile, Candace Owens kept fueling attention around the larger topic itself. Now, whether Candace directly accused Erika of wrongdoing, or whether audiences simply expanded the conversation themselves depends heavily on how people interpret her commentary publicly. But either way, once Erika's name entered the discussion, the internet emotionally attached her to the scandal narrative almost instantly. And honestly, that may be the biggest problem. Because modern internet culture rarely waits for full confirmation anymore. Once social media emotionally decides somebody might be connected to something controversial, public suspicion alone can start damaging reputations long before facts become fully clear. That is exactly what many people believe Erika Kirk is experiencing right now. Once Erika Kirk's name became attached to the broader Epstein conversation online, social media immediately started doing what it always does during major internet scandals. Going backward through her entire public history looking for anything that suddenly feels suspicious in hindsight. And honestly, that process can destroy public reputations incredibly fast. Because once audiences emotionally decide someone might know more than they admitted, every old interview, social post, appearance, or connection suddenly gets viewed through a completely different lens. Moments that once looked harmless start feeling questionable. Old friendships become evidence. Random event photos turn into conspiracy material overnight. That is exactly what started happening to Erika publicly. Users online began resurfacing old content and trying to build larger narratives around her social circles, public interactions, and alleged access to elite environments. Some people claimed certain details looked too connected to ignore emotionally. Others argued the internet was dangerously stretching ordinary social overlap into scandal narratives without proof. And that divide made the controversy even louder. Because once people emotionally split into something feels wrong here versus this is becoming internet paranoia, the discussion spreads much faster than verified information itself. Meanwhile, Candace Owens continued drawing attention to larger questions about elite protection systems, celebrity networking, and how powerful social groups allegedly shield each other publicly. Even without directly proving anything specific involving Erika, Candace's commentary created an atmosphere where audiences became increasingly suspicious of anyone appearing near those conversations emotionally. That atmosphere matters. Because social media now operates heavily on implication culture rather than confirmed evidence culture. A person no longer needs to be directly accused of wrongdoing to experience backlash publicly. Sometimes simply appearing adjacent to controversial names becomes enough for internet suspicion to explode anyway. That is why people keep saying Erika may be in trouble reputationally even if no confirmed allegations emerge directly against her personally. The damage comes from association. Once Epstein discourse enters a conversation, audiences become extremely emotional and reactive. The public no longer calmly separates. Appeared near someone. From. Participated in wrongdoing. Everything blends together emotionally online. And honestly, some observers think Candace Owens fully understands how powerful that effect can be publicly. Because Candace has built much of her media presence around questioning elite narratives, exposing hypocrisy, and pushing conversations mainstream audiences often avoid. Her supporters believe she forces uncomfortable truths into public view. Her critics argue she sometimes fuels speculation beyond verified evidence. That is exactly why this Erika Kirk situation exploded so aggressively. Some people think Candace uncovered something worth investigating. Others think social media took incomplete commentary and transformed it into a giant guilt by association scandal before enough facts actually existed publicly to support the outrage. One reason this situation surrounding Erika Kirk exploded so aggressively online is because anything connected to Jeffrey Epstein automatically triggers emotional distrust now. And honestly, that reaction changes everything. Because Epstein's scandal became symbolic of something much larger in the public imagination, powerful people protecting each other privately while ordinary audiences remain in the dark. Whether discussing celebrities, politicians, billionaires, media figures, or wealthy social circles, the public now approaches elite networks with suspicion first instead of trust. That emotional environment is exactly why this controversy became dangerous so quickly. The second Candace Owens started questioning connections, social overlap, and hidden relationships publicly, audiences immediately assumed there could be much more happening behind the scenes than what was visible openly. Then once Erika Kirk's name started circulating inside those discussions, the internet emotionally attached her to that broader distrust automatically. And that attachment becomes incredibly difficult to reverse publicly. Because Epstein-related conversations no longer operate like normal scandals online. Social media users treat them almost like hidden network investigations emotionally. Every relationship becomes suspicious. Every appearance gets analyzed. Every friendship gets questioned. Even small coincidences begin feeling intentional to audiences already expecting corruption or secrecy behind elite circles. That is why people started revisiting Erika's entire social positioning publicly. Who did she know? Who was she photographed near? Which events did she attend? What conversations existed online years earlier? Did any public behavior look different in hindsight now? Those questions spread everywhere once the internet decided there might be something worth investigating emotionally. At the same time, another side of the internet became deeply uncomfortable with how fast things escalated publicly. Critics warned that social media has become increasingly dangerous at turning implication into assumed guilt automatically. They argued that once somebody's name appears anywhere near Epstein discourse online, audiences stop demanding actual evidence emotionally because the topic itself already feels sinister enough to justify suspicion. That creates a massive reputational trap. Because even if no direct evidence of wrongdoing appears publicly, people may still emotionally remember Erika Kirk as the person involved in the Epstein conversations, simply because social media attached her name to the discourse repeatedly. And honestly, that may be the biggest consequence of all this. Not confirmed accusations. Not legal exposure. Not proven wrongdoing. But permanent public suspicion. Because once trust breaks online around somebody's image, especially inside conversations involving elite scandals and hidden social networks, rebuilding that trust becomes almost impossible no matter what later facts eventually show publicly. As this controversy keeps growing, a lot of attention is now shifting back toward Candace Owens herself. Because people are starting to ask a very serious question. Did Candace expose something genuinely important? Or did she accidentally unleash another uncontrollable internet scandal built mostly on speculation and emotional suspicion? And honestly, that question matters more than ever now. Because once Erika Kirk's name entered the broader Epstein conversation publicly, social media stopped behaving rationally almost immediately. The internet began moving like a giant crowd emotionally investigating hidden networks, elite circles, and celebrity relationships all at once. That kind of environment becomes impossible to control once it starts spreading. Even if Candace originally intended only to raise questions or highlight broader concerns about elite protection systems publicly, many people think audiences online took the conversation much further than where it originally began. Suddenly random screenshots, old photos, unrelated social overlap, and weak timeline connections started getting treated like major evidence emotionally. And that is where critics say things became dangerous. Because internet audiences today often confuse interesting coincidence with proof once conspiracy energy enters a discussion. People emotionally build narratives first, then search for details supporting the story afterward. Anything contradicting the theory often gets ignored completely. That pattern is exactly what some observers fear is happening around Erika now. At the same time, Candace's supporters argue this reaction itself proves why conversations involving elite networks need public attention in the first place. They believe mainstream institutions historically ignored uncomfortable connections involving wealthy or influential people for too long, allowing secrecy and protection systems to survive publicly without enough scrutiny. That argument gives Candace enormous support online, especially among audiences already distrustful of celebrity culture, political elites, legacy media, and wealthy social circles generally. To those supporters, asking difficult questions publicly is necessary, even if the conversations become messy emotionally afterward. But critics push back hard against that logic too. They argue there is a major difference between investigating confirmed evidence and allowing internet implication culture to destroy people reputationally without clear proof publicly. And once social media begins emotionally connecting names together repeatedly, reputational damage happens regardless of whether the underlying claims ever become substantiated later. That is exactly why Erika Kirk's situation now feels so volatile online. Because the internet is no longer calmly discussing facts. It is emotionally constructing narratives. And once narratives form around topics involving Jeffrey Epstein, celebrity connections, and elite social circles, those narratives tend to spread faster than evidence itself ever can. At this point, the biggest issue facing Erika Kirk may not even be whether any major evidence actually emerges publicly. The problem is that social media already emotionally attached her name to the Epstein conversation itself. And honestly, once that happens online, escaping public suspicion becomes almost impossible. Because internet audiences rarely separate accusations, implications, speculation, and confirmed facts carefully anymore once emotionally charged scandals begin spreading. Instead, people tend to remember the emotional association first. That is why some observers think Erika's reputation may already be permanently affected regardless of what happens next publicly. Even now, users online continue reposting old clips, resurfacing photographs, analyzing social overlap, and debating whether certain elite relationships around her look suspicious in hindsight. Every time the conversation trends again, her name gets pulled back into the discussion emotionally all over again. That cycle keeps reinforcing public suspicion. And once suspicion becomes part of somebody's online identity publicly, algorithms make the problem even worse. Search results change. Viral clips spread repeatedly. Commentary channels create more breakdowns. Reaction pages recycle theories for engagement. Eventually, audiences begin recognizing someone primarily through controversy rather than through their actual work or public identity originally. That transformation can happen incredibly fast online now. Especially once Candace Owens becomes involved in the conversation. Because Candace carries a massive audience that already distrusts elite institutions deeply. Her supporters actively search for hidden patterns, contradictions, and connections within celebrity and political culture publicly. So once Candace raises questions involving a topic as emotionally explosive as Jeffrey Epstein, audiences often treat those discussions like major investigations instead of ordinary internet gossip. That gives the controversy enormous momentum automatically. Meanwhile, another side of the internet remains increasingly worried about how easily social media destroys reputations through association alone. Critics keep pointing out that appearing near influential people socially does not automatically prove wrongdoing. Elite circles naturally overlap in entertainment, business, politics, and media environments constantly. They warn that the internet's obsession with hidden network theories sometimes encourages people to connect unrelated dots emotionally until suspicion itself becomes the evidence. That concern is growing louder now, because many observers believe the Erika Kirk situation represents something larger about modern online culture. The collapse of the line between questioning powerful systems and publicly convicting individuals without enough verified facts. And honestly, that line becomes especially blurry once Epstein discussions enter the picture. Because audiences already emotionally expect corruption, secrecy, and hidden relationships underneath elite society publicly. So the internet becomes far more willing to assume the worst immediately, even before clear evidence fully emerges. What started as online discussion involving Candace Owens and Erika Kirk has now evolved into something much bigger publicly. At this point, people are no longer only debating Erika specifically. Now the internet is arguing about how modern scandal culture works altogether. Because this controversy exposed something many audiences find deeply uncomfortable. Social media now has the power to emotionally convict people long before institutions, investigations, or confirmed evidence ever fully catch up publicly. And honestly, that reality scares people on both sides of the debate. Supporters of Candace Owens argue public pressure is necessary because elite systems historically protected powerful people behind closed doors for years. According to that perspective, internet scrutiny became one of the only ways ordinary people could force conversations about hidden networks, celebrity privilege, and influential social circles into mainstream visibility publicly. To them, asking difficult questions is not dangerous, avoiding those questions is. But critics see another danger growing at the exact same time. They believe social media has created an environment where suspicion itself becomes enough to permanently damage someone's reputation emotionally. Once a person's name enters a controversial narrative involving topics like Jeffrey Epstein, the public often stops demanding proof, because the emotional atmosphere already feels sinister enough. That emotional assumption changes everything. People begin analyzing ordinary behavior like hidden evidence. Coincidences become patterns. Old friendships become connections. Public appearances become proof. And eventually the line between investigation and internet paranoia starts collapsing completely. That is why Erika Kirk's situation now feels so unstable publicly. Because even if no direct evidence ever surfaces tying her to wrongdoing, the internet may still emotionally remember her as part of that Epstein controversy Candace Owens talked about. And once public memory attaches somebody to scandal emotionally, reputational recovery becomes incredibly difficult. Especially online. Because the internet never fully forgets controversy anymore. It archives it, recycles it, repackages it, and reintroduces it every time related discussions trend again publicly. Meanwhile, Candace Owens continues sitting at the center of the storm. Her supporters praise her for refusing to stay silent around elite network discussions. Her critics accuse her of fueling speculation that social media cannot responsibly handle once it spreads emotionally. And both sides believe the stakes are much larger than just one internet controversy involving Erika Kirk specifically. Now the conversation is about trust itself. Trust in elites. Trust in media. Trust in celebrity culture. Trust in institutions. And whether the public even knows how to separate legitimate scrutiny from emotionally satisfying conspiracy narratives anymore. In the end, the situation involving Candace Owens, Erika Kirk, and the broader Jeffrey Epstein conversation became much bigger than one viral controversy online. Because now the internet is confronting something far deeper and far more uncomfortable. What happens when public distrust becomes so strong that suspicion itself starts functioning like evidence emotionally? That is exactly where this story ended up. The second Candace Owens started discussing elite networks, hidden relationships, and controversial social overlap publicly, audiences immediately began connecting dots on their own. Then once Erika Kirk's name entered those discussions, the internet moved fast, resurfacing old content, analyzing social circles, revisiting timelines, and emotionally building narratives long before confirmed facts fully existed publicly. And honestly, that reaction says a lot about modern culture right now. People no longer trust elite systems automatically. They no longer trust celebrity culture automatically. They no longer trust powerful social circles automatically. So when conversations involving Epstein emerge publicly, audiences immediately assume there could be hidden truths underneath the surface even before evidence becomes clear. That emotional distrust fuels massive online investigations, conspiracy theories, and public scrutiny at levels almost impossible to control once they begin spreading. At the same time, critics warn that this environment creates enormous danger too. Because once social media emotionally associates someone with scandal, public reputations can collapse regardless of whether wrongdoing is ever actually proven later. The internet remembers implication emotionally long after facts become more complicated publicly. That is exactly why Erika Kirk's situation feels so volatile now. Some people believe Candace Owens uncovered legitimate concerns worth public attention. Others believe internet implication culture turned weak associations into a giant reputational scandal before enough evidence existed to justify the outrage. And honestly, both fears may exist at the same time. Because the public has real reasons to distrust hidden elite systems historically. But social media also has a growing habit of emotionally convicting people before truth fully catches up publicly. Now audiences are left trying to figure out where the line actually exists between justified scrutiny and dangerous internet speculation. And right now, that line looks blurrier than ever. So what do you think? Did Candace Owens expose something the public genuinely deserves to question involving Erika Kirk and these elite network conversations? Or do you think social media took speculation way too far before enough facts were confirmed? Drop your thoughts below, like, subscribe, and stay tuned, because people believe this controversy is only getting bigger from here.